Welcome to the Cheating Wife Stories channel. 7 years ago, I met Leah, and we quickly formed a deep bond. Our upbringings were strikingly similar. We both came from the Western heartland, raised in devout Christian households where faith was the foundation of everything. Church was a constant in our lives, and Sundays were sacred. We often talked about the future, mapping out our dreams together. At the time, I was carving out a successful career as an engineer, while Leah thrived in sales working for a major tech firm in Brookford that specialized in accounting software. After I earned my degree, my parents made an extraordinary gesture. They gifted me a 3-bedroom house. Having built a comfortable life for themselves, they believed in sharing their wealth while they were alive rather than waiting to pass it down as an inheritance. Unlike many who never see the joy their generosity brings, my parents wanted to witness the happiness their gifts provided. Leah and I tied the knot just over 5 years ago, and life together felt like a dream. Our relationship was passionate, our connection unwavering. We were so affectionate that our friends often teased us about being inseparable. Our closeness never faded. We made time for each other, keeping the spark alive. Then, the greatest blessing of all arrived. Our beautiful twin daughters, 2 little girls with golden hair who filled our world with love and purpose. From that moment on, our priorities shifted entirely. Our focus was on raising them in a home filled with warmth, stability, and unwavering love. To an outsider, our life might have seemed routine. We preferred quiet dinners at home, went out only on weekends, and never missed Sunday service. Fashion trends and social events weren't of much interest to us. Like many in our generation, Leah dressed modestly, both professionally and casually, saving anything daring exclusively for me, behind closed doors. Trust was the foundation of our marriage. There were no secrets between us, no hidden messages or unspoken truths. Leah was naturally affectionate, always reaching for my hand, pressing soft kisses against my cheek, or wrapping her arms around me without hesitation. I adored that about her. We shared everything. Our thoughts, our worries, and our deepest emotions. Raising twins wasn't always easy, but I embraced every moment. It was more demanding for Leah at times, and whenever she felt overwhelmed, I stepped in without hesitation. We had an unspoken understanding, a rhythm that kept us strong. We never let issues escalate into arguments. We found solutions before frustration could settle in. Life was good, and I couldn't have asked for more. Then everything changed. A week before the annual trade exhibition, Leah received an unexpected call. Her presence was required at a 3-day event. Several team members had fallen ill, leaving her company short-staffed. She didn't want to go and made multiple attempts to get out of it, but in the end, they had no one else to send. One evening, as she packed her bags, she turned to me with an apologetic expression. "Baby, I hate this. I don't want to leave you and the girls for 3 days. I even called my boss twice. But he said they need me. You know how much I hate being away." I gave her a reassuring smile. "We'll be fine, I promise. It's just a few days. We'll miss you, but we support you." I helped her with her luggage and carried it to the waiting car. Her company had arranged for a limo to take her to the airport. As she left, I felt nothing but trust. Leah had never given me a reason to doubt her. She'd always been loyal, loving, and open with me about everything. Ours was a marriage built on honesty. We shared every detail of our lives, never keeping secrets. That's why the message I received on the second night of her trip hit me like a thunderbolt. It was from Nate, a longtime friend and colleague who was attending a cybersecurity conference in Brookford that same weekend. "Nate, Daniel, how's your weekend, man? I'm out having dinner with some great company." I smiled at my phone and replied casually. "Me, Leah's at her trade show, so I'm spending time with my little girls." "You're at the security event, right?" "Nate, yeah, you said Leah's at an exhibition. Do you know which one?" Something about the question made me pause. "Me, yeah, it's in Brookford this week, but I don't remember the exact name." Her company's presenting at the convention center. Why? Nate, I'm at dinner with my team, and guess who's sitting across from me? A strange, uneasy feeling crept into my stomach. Me. What are you getting at, Nate? The next message contained 3 attachments, 2 photos and a short video. My breath caught as I opened them. The first photo was of Leah, but not as I had ever seen her before. She wore a dress so short it barely covered her thighs, with a plunging neckline that revealed more than I thought she ever would in public, paired with high heels. She looked stunning, absolutely breathtaking. Her hair was styled to perfection, her makeup flawless. For a moment, I convinced myself it wasn't her, maybe someone who just resembled her. I even let out a small laugh thinking, damn, I wish Leah would dress like that for me sometime. Then I opened the second image. This time, there was no denying it was her. She was sitting at a table, leaning in close to Albert, one of her bosses. The two of them were laughing, her hand resting lightly on his arm. The way she looked at him sent a sickening jolt through me. Her eyes held something unfamiliar, something I had never seen before. My chest tightened as I tried to convince myself there had to be a logical explanation. Then I opened the final attachment, a video. The moment it started playing, my world shattered. Leah was kissing Albert, not a friendly, casual peck, a deep, intimate kiss. Her arms draped around his neck, and his hand was pressed firmly against her chest. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as my stomach twisted into knots. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. A wave of nausea rolled over me as hot tears filled my eyes. Then another message appeared. Nate. Daniel, are you okay? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. Me. Where is she right now? Nate. Still at the table. I swallowed hard. Me. I'm calling her right now. I dialed Leah's number, my hands trembling slightly as I waited. The phone rang several times before her voicemail picked up. Forcing my voice to remain steady, I left a message. Hey sweetheart, we miss you. Just wanted to check in and see how your night's going. I hope you're having a good time. I ended the call and immediately phoned Nate. She didn't answer, I told him. Nate exhaled on the other end of the line. I just saw her check her phone. She looked at the screen, saw your name, and put it right back in her purse. A cold wave rolled through my chest. She didn't even hesitate. Nope. There was a pause. Daniel, I hate this. I never thought she'd do something like this to you. Honestly, man, I didn't realize just how attractive your wife is until now. Nate. My voice was sharp. Crap. Sorry, that came out wrong. I closed my eyes for a second. It's fine. Thank you for being honest. I'd rather hear it from you than be left in the dark. I appreciate it. So, what are you gonna do? I exhaled slowly. I need to process this first. Just don't get involved, okay? Don't let her know you're watching and don't waste your time tracking her. But if you see anything else, just send it my way. You sure? I don't know what I am right now, Nate. But I do know I need to figure this out on my own. There was a long silence before he spoke again. I got you, man. I'm here if you need me. I know. Thanks. After hanging up, I grabbed a bottle of whiskey and poured myself a drink. The dimly lit living room felt suffocating, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. In less than half an hour, my world had completely unraveled. Had there been signs? Had I been too blind, too trusting? But no, Leah had never given me any reason to doubt her. In fact, if anything, the past 6 months had been some of the best in our marriage. She'd been more affectionate, more engaged, more passionate. Our bed life had even improved. None of this made sense. Over the next hour, Nate sent more images. The first showed her and Albert on the dance floor, his hand gripping her waist, dangerously low. The second was worse. They were kissing, completely lost in each other. The last image hit the hardest. They were tucked away in a quiet corner, locked in an intimate embrace, oblivious to the world around them. I stared at the screen, numb. Then, at 10 p.m., my phone rang. Leah. I inhaled deeply, forcing my emotions into a tight control box. She couldn't know that I knew. Not yet. I answered, keeping my voice casual. Hey, love. Hide, baby, she purred. I'm so sorry I missed your call earlier. I was stuck in a dinner meeting and couldn't step away. Her voice was soft, affectionate. I miss you so much. Wish I was there with you, wrapped up under the covers, kissing every inch of you. The words twisted like a knife. I swallowed back the bile rising in my throat. I miss you too, Leah, I said smoothly, letting warmth seep into my voice. I love you. The girls miss you like crazy. I'll send you some pictures of them before bed. Oh, I'd love that. I tried to leave early tomorrow, but my boss insists I stay the full 3 days. I hate being away from you. We'll celebrate when you get back. The soft sigh. I can't wait. I love you, baby. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? Good night, sweetheart. I love you more than you know. I ended the call and set the phone down, my vision blurring as hot tears spilled down my face. Every word I had said was true. I did love her more than life itself, and I did wish this was all just a terrible dream. By midnight, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind a whirlwind of unanswered questions. Was she really back in her hotel room? Was she still with him? My phone vibrated. Nate again. I hesitated before checking the message. Another photo. This one was worse than the others. Leah and Albert curled up on a sofa in what looked like a hotel lounge. They were kissing. His hand was under the hem of her dress, her arms wrapped around his neck. They looked like lovers who had been together for years, lost in each other, oblivious to anything else. Nate sent one last message. Nate, this is the last one for tonight, man. Looks like she's not heading back to her room anytime soon. Let me know if you want me to stop. I can pull back easily. Me? No, let it play out. It's all on her now. Just let me know if anything changes. Thanks for everything. I set the phone down and let the silent sobs take over. The pain in my chest felt unbearable. She hadn't just cheated, she had lied straight to my face, lied as if our vows, our family, and our love meant nothing. At some point, exhaustion won. I cried myself to sleep. I woke up to a flood of texts from Leah, messages filled with love, hearts, and longing words. She even promised a wild night together when she got back. The words made my stomach turn. And when she finally returned home, she was as affectionate as ever, slipping into my arms with the same sweet smile she always wore. She kissed me deeply, held our daughters close, and acted as if nothing had happened. For a moment, I wondered if something was wrong with her. Was she dissociating? Did she not even realize what she was doing? Had someone pressured her, sedated her? I searched for any explanation, any alternative that wasn't the reality staring me in the face. But I knew better. She was coming home in a few days. That gave me time to decide my next move. We spoke on the phone several times a day, and she continued her charade, telling me how much she missed me, how she couldn't wait to be back, how our bed felt empty without me. She played her role flawlessly, acting like the devoted wife, the perfect mother. But I wasn't sure what stung more, the betrayal itself, or the fact that she thought I was so naive, so blind, that I would never find out. Nate's messages had confirmed the brutal truth. I'd been betrayed in the worst possible way. My wife had turned me into a fool, living a double life while I remained blissfully unaware. But now that I knew, I had no intention of sitting back and letting it continue. Technology had always been my strong suit, and months ago, I had installed tracking software on Leah's phone. It was meant as a precaution, something I had explained to her, in case she ever misplaced it. She had no reason to suspect anything. What she didn't know, however, was that the software had another function. A hidden voice recorder capable of logging calls, messages, and emails, all backed up automatically to the cloud. Until now, I had never even thought about using it. I had always trusted her completely. But after everything I had seen, trust was no longer part of the equation. I wasn't just doing this for myself. I had to protect my daughters. Despite the storm raging inside me, I kept my routine the same. The girls kept me busy. Making breakfast, tidying up, playing with their dolls. Raising 3-year-old twins is exhausting, but every second with them reminded me of what truly mattered. By the time I finally got them down for a nap around 2 p.m., I was drained. After a quick shower and a little housework, I sat at the dining table, scrolling through my laptop. Leah had sent 6 more messages, sweet, affectionate, and filled with love. She promised to call at 5 p.m. I clenched my jaw as I read them, then took a deep breath and accessed the cloud storage linked to her phone. The recorded messages and texts between her and Albert appeared before me. My heart pounded as I read the words that would change everything. Last night was incredible, baby. I can't wait to be in your arms again tonight. You were amazing, kitten. Think we can sneak away before dinner? Of course, but I need to call my husband first. I'll be ready by 5 p.m. Does he have any idea? Not a clue. He knows I love him, and I'll make sure he keeps believing that. What we have is just ours. He never has to know. We've kept this going for 6 months without him suspecting a thing. I know exactly how to handle him. Don't worry. I couldn't read another word. Kitten. That was my name for her. Something personal, something intimate, something that belonged to us. And now she had given it to him. I stood so abruptly that my chair scraped against the floor. Rage boiled over, burning through my veins. My vision blurred as I grabbed the nearest lamp and hurled it against the wall. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the house. I clenched my fists, barely containing the need to destroy something else. When I heard the soft cries of my daughters, their tiny voices cut through my fury like a blade. I forced myself to take a deep breath, to push down the fire inside me. Losing control wouldn't solve anything. I had to be strong for them. I walked into their room, scooping both of them into my arms, whispering soothing words until their sobs quieted. As they settled down, I set them up with their toys in the living room. Then I returned to clean up the mess I had made, my mind already made up. This marriage was over. I had no interest in listening to more of their disgusting conversations or digging through every text. The truth was already clear. Instead, I needed a strategy. If Leah could lie to my face for months, I could do the same. I would play my part perfectly, just as she had played me. My priorities were set. Contact a divorce lawyer, hire a private investigator, and figure out how to gain full custody of my daughters. That afternoon, Leah called. I took a deep breath, composing myself before answering. "Hey, baby," she said, her voice as warm as ever. "How are my little princesses?" "They miss their mommy." "They're doing great," I replied smoothly. "We all miss you." "Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea how much I think about you all day. I can't wait to hold you in my arms when I get home." I forced a smile into my voice. "Me too, baby. I can't wait to hug my beautiful, loving wife." She giggled. "Soon, baby, just a couple more days." The call lasted exactly 15 minutes. At 5:15, she wrapped it up. "I love you, Daniel," she murmured. "I have to run. The bus is leaving for the hotel. I'll text you later, okay? Love you." Another effortless lie on her part. She didn't even hesitate. "I love you too, baby. More than you know." The words tasted like poison on my tongue. But now my love had been replaced by something darker, a thirst for justice, a need to reclaim my dignity. When Leah finally returned home, I met her at the airport. She ran into my arms, pressing her lips against mine as if nothing had changed. Either she was the best actress in the world, or she really did love me in her own twisted way. As soon as we got home, she spent an hour doting on our daughters, showering them with kisses, completely immersed in the role of devoted mother. And that night in bed, she was even more affectionate than usual. She curled into me, whispering sweet words. "I missed you so much," she breathed. "Being away from you was awful. All I could think about was being in your arms." She was soft, gentle, completely different from the woman in those messages and videos. And I played my part flawlessly. I loved her. I satisfied her. I gave her exactly what she expected from her perfect husband. To anyone looking in from the outside, our marriage was enviable, strong, passionate, unbreakable. And for 3 months, I kept up the act. I studied her every move, watched for any sign that she was still sneaking around. But she was careful. There were no strange calls, no suspicious texts. She left work and came home on time, played with the girls, laughed with me. She was the picture of a devoted wife. But I knew better, and soon she would too. For a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to believe. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe all of this was some massive misunderstanding, an elaborate mistake my mind had pieced together in paranoia. Then my phone rang. It was Mr. Brock, the private investigator. We arranged a meeting for the following afternoon. As I drove downtown, my grip tightened on the steering wheel, my stomach twisted into knots. By the time I entered the sleek conference room of Brock's office, my pulse was pounding in my ears. "Daniel, good to see you." Brock greeted me, his expression unreadable. "Good to see you too," I responded, though my voice felt distant. He exhaled, folding his hands on the table. "I wish I had better news. I really do. But the evidence we gathered, it's not good. Are you ready to see what we found?" I sucked in a sharp breath and nodded. "Go ahead." I had braced myself, but deep down, I already knew the truth. Brock slid a thick binder across the table, its cover smooth leather. The inside was meticulously organized, labeled tabs for messages, emails, phone call transcripts, photos, video evidence. Before I could open it, I found myself voicing something that had been gnawing at me for months. For months now, I've watched her closely. She's been perfect, attentive, affectionate, completely normal. I haven't seen a single red flag. Brock tapped the binder. "This might explain why. Let me walk you through it." I had stopped reviewing the cloud recordings weeks ago. The texts had been too much. Part of me had clung to blind hope, but reality wasn't interested in my hope. The first tab contained dozens of printed screenshots, over 75 pages of messages. The second tab held 25 pages of emails. The third, 75 time-stamped photos documenting her arrivals and departures from various hotels. Next, 82 recorded video calls, then 50 pages of transcribed phone conversations. Brock flipped to a specific section. "For the last 3 months, Leah and Albert have been meeting at this motel 4 times a week, every week. Same time, same place, 1 p.m. sharp. Each visit lasted about 2 hours. I clenched my jaw, nausea rising. Brock turned another page. "But this is where it gets more complicated. There's someone else." He pushed a photograph toward me. A man in a tailored suit, his salt and pepper hair immaculately styled. The sight of him sent ice down my spine. "Is that James Bradford?" My voice barely sounded like my own. Brock nodded grimly. "The CEO of her company." I let out a bitter laugh, though there was nothing funny about it. "So she's cheating with 2 men, and one of them is her boss." Brock's expression didn't waver. "Based on our findings, yes." He reached for a remote and clicked a button. The massive 80-inch screen on the wall flickered to life. A grainy video played, showing Leah standing on a hotel balcony. James Bradford stood behind her, his hands gripping her waist as they laughed together. I shot up from my chair, my vision tunneling. I needed air. I stumbled into the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. My reflection in the mirror was unrecognizable. Eyes bloodshot, expression hollow. After a few deep breaths, I returned to the room. "Keep going," I forced out, my voice cold. Brock hesitated. This next one, it's worse. He pressed play again. Another balcony, another video. This time, both men were there. Albert, James, and Leah together. My stomach clenched. The weight of it, the sheer depth of her betrayal, hit me like a freight train. Brock paused the screen. I know this is devastating, Daniel. But since these were recorded in public areas, they're admissible in court. This could help with divorce proceedings, particularly custody. I stared at the screen, numb. I wanted to deny it, to reject the evidence in front of me. But the woman in the videos, that was my wife. Brock let out a quiet sigh. We also investigated both men. Albert Parks has been married for 10 years, 4 children. James Bradford, married for 25 years, 3 grown kids. My hands curled into fists. They were both married, just like Leah, just like me. Brock flipped a page, and according to these texts, Albert introduced James to her after she mentioned wanting to try something new. I inhaled sharply, but it did nothing to steady me. It's dark, Daniel, Brock admitted quietly. I'll leave these with you to review at your own pace. He slid a USB drive across the table. This contains everything. Files, messages, videos. Your lawyer will need them. When I handed everything over to my attorney, she was stunned. I've handled a lot of infidelity cases, but this is next level. She never acted any differently at home, I admitted. Not once. My lawyer shook her head. I need some time to review all of this, but I can tell you now, you have options, strong ones. I don't need time, I said firmly. File the divorce papers, now. Walking out of her office, I felt like a part of me had been hollowed out. It wasn't just the betrayal itself. It was the sheer deception, the lengths Leah had gone to, the layers of lies she had spun around me. Who was this woman I had married? That night, after tucking the girls into bed, I sat next to Leah on the couch, scrolling through Netflix. I had already planned my next move. Let's watch this, I said, clicking on Unfaithful. She snuggled into my side. I heard that's a good one. Halfway through, I spoke casually. There's a woman at work who's been flirting with me for months. I laughed lightly, as if it were nothing. Can you imagine me with someone else? Leah stiffened, eyes narrowing. Who? Just some girl, I shrugged. Funny, right? Her expression darkened. Daniel, listen to me. I turned to look at her. If I ever catch you thinking about another woman, she said in a low, dangerous tone, I'll leave you. You belong to me. Do you understand? I studied her face, memorizing every ounce of hypocrisy dripping from her words. I forced a smile. Of course, baby. I'm yours. For now, I added silently in my head, even though my tone stayed lighthearted. She wasn't joking. She was dead serious. Any hint of infidelity on my part was absolutely unacceptable to her. The irony was staggering. Here was a woman sneaking around with not one but 2 different men, yet she acted as if the mere thought of me with another woman was some kind of betrayal. This is seriously messing with my head, Daniel. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? Who is she? She was genuinely outraged. I chuckled, shaking my head. Relax, Leah. She's just some intern, a young girl who likes to flirt. I don't give her the time of day. She seemed to ease up a little, so I took the opportunity to turn the conversation around. What about you, though? You're gorgeous. Are you telling me no one at work has ever hit on you? She scoffed. Of course not. They all know I'm married, and I'd never cheat on you. I studied her carefully, keeping my expression neutral. Not even once. You've never even considered it. Never kissed someone else. Her face darkened instantly. Are you serious right now? She crossed her arms, voice sharp. I tell you all the time how much I love you. I'm always with you. How could you even ask me something like that? You're being an absolute jerk for even suggesting it. I fought the urge to laugh. She was incredible, so convincing. I almost believed her. No wonder she excelled at her job. She could sell anything. A moment later, she softened again, leaning into me like nothing had happened. I took that as my signal. Casually, I picked up my phone, scrolled through my messages, and selected a photo. One of her and Albert caught in a heated kiss on the dance floor, his hand firmly gripping her backside. I stared at it for a few seconds, waiting for her to notice my distraction. "What are you doing?" she asked, glancing at my phone. "Why aren't you watching the movie?" "Because what I'm looking at is way more interesting." Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" I muted the TV and turned the screen toward her. She froze, her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Still looking at the image, I spoke calmly. "Wow, that's quite a kiss you're giving him." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Daniel, I can explain. Where did you get this?" "This?" I raised an eyebrow. "That's you and your boss. Nate happened to be at the same restaurant and saw you two. He texted me asking if that was really my wife or just someone who looked like her. I have to say, you look stunning in that dress, Leah. I've never seen you wear something so short, so revealing. You must have really wanted to impress him." She swallowed hard. "Baby, it wasn't like that. We only danced. He was drunk. When the song ended, he grabbed me and kissed me. I didn't even see it coming. What you don't see in that picture is that I slapped him right after and caused a scene. I swear I would never let something like that happen." "Oh, of course," I said, nodding slowly. "So you just happened to wear that dress to a business dinner?" Her fingers twisted together. "I bought it for an event, but I didn't realize how revealing it was until that night." She shook her head. "Daniel, I promise you nothing happened. I swear I would never do that to you." I leaned back against the couch, pretending to consider her words. "I understand. Situations like that can happen." She let out a relieved breath. I let her sit with that relief for a moment before tilting my head, and that was the only time something like this happened. "Yes," she said quickly, "and it will never happen again." I remained silent, letting her twist in her own unease. Then, without a word, I picked up my phone again. This time, I selected a video. One of her and Albert sitting on a couch. His hand was creeping up her thigh, disappearing under her dress. I hit play. Leah noticed immediately. "What are you watching now?" she asked, alarmed. I kept my voice casual. "Remember that night when you called me, saying you were exhausted and heading to bed early?" She nodded, her face pale. "Yes, it's funny, because Nate texted me about 2 hours after that call." I turned the phone toward her, and this time it was a video. "Care to take a look?" On the screen, clear as day, Albert's hand wandered where it shouldn't. I smirked. "I can't wait to hear your next explanation." Leah's face drained of color. "My God, Daniel, I'm so sorry." I simply crossed my arms and waited. Her voice wavered. After we got off the phone, Albert called. He said we needed to go over a client issue before the morning. He asked me to meet him in the lobby. I barely remember this. I had a few drinks and was feeling tipsy. You know how I get when I drink. She sounded desperate. I don't know what happened, but nothing else really happened. I swear I told him to stop. I told him I was married and went up to my room alone. She leaned forward, voice pleading. "Daniel, you have to believe me." I tilted my head slightly, studying her carefully. "All right, let's say I believe you." I lied effortlessly. "But I have one question. Who were you dressing up for?" "Because you've never worn anything like that for me. You never put in that kind of effort with your hair or makeup. So was it him you were trying to impress?" She wiped at her eyes, shaking her head. "No, Daniel, I swear, it wasn't like that. I don't know why I dressed like that. It's not even me. Maybe I was just trying to fit in. The other women were dressed that way, and I guess I didn't want to feel out of place." I nodded slowly, pretending to consider her words. "That makes sense, I suppose. But then why didn't you tell me about Albert? Why not mention how close you two had become?" She hesitated just long enough for me to notice. Because it didn't matter, she said quickly. I shut it down before it got out of hand. I didn't want to upset you over nothing. You have to understand, Daniel, he's my boss. I couldn't afford to make things weird at work. But if something serious had happened, you know I would have told you right away. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I pulled her into my arms, pressing a slow kiss to her forehead, letting her sob against my chest. This was only the beginning. That night, she clung to me with more desperation than usual, pouring every ounce of affection into me, as if she could erase everything with her touch. I let it happen. I let myself enjoy her the way I always had, but for the first time, I felt nothing. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was just another woman in my bed. And I wasn't about to deny myself the pleasure of her body before her world burned to the ground. She was more passionate than ever, more eager to please, as if she needed to convince herself that I was still hers. And I let her, every night for weeks. She played her role perfectly, and I sat back and watched, knowing exactly how the story would end. The next morning, after she kissed me goodbye and left for work, I logged into the cloud storage that had been collecting her messages, and as expected, she didn't disappoint. Leah. Oh my God. Someone took photos of us at the fair and sent them to Daniel. One of his friends saw me at the restaurant without him. I don't know if he believes me, but the video showed us kissing. Albert. Damn. Now that you mention it, I do remember some guy watching us. He had his phone out, but I didn't think much of it. Leah. I took care of it. I convinced him nothing happened. He thinks I stopped you before it went too far. He has no clue I spent the night in your room. I told him it was the booze, and made it up to him. He's easy to handle. A few kisses and good times, and he forgets everything. Albert, just be careful. We're still meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m., right? Leah. Of course. I can't wait. I've missed you. Love you, baby. Albert. I love you too, kitten. I sat there staring at my screen, letting the fury settle deep in my chest. I had been the biggest fool. But now I was the one in control. First, I made sure my finances were protected. I moved money, closed accounts, ensured she had no access to anything that truly mattered. I left my main credit card open, but lowered its limit to $2,500, just enough to keep her from noticing. She had no idea. Then I confirmed with my lawyer that since I owned the house before we got married, I wouldn't have to leave once the divorce papers were served. That was important. Next, I drafted the email, the one that would expose everything, every message, every voice recording, every video. The recipients, her family, her friends, her colleagues. But I wasn't done. I made duplicate evidence folders for two women who needed to know, Mrs. Bradford and Mrs. Parks, James's and Albert's wives. At the same time, my attorney built civil lawsuits against both men. Their company, GenCorp Innovations, was one of the biggest tech firms on the East Coast, and my lawyer was more than eager to bring the CEO into the scandal. We weren't just going to expose them. We were going to bury them. And then there were the girls. I made sure I had everything I needed to fight for full custody. I gathered reports, filed documents, and secured every piece of evidence to prove that their mother was unfit to raise them. For the next few weeks, life continued as if nothing had changed. Leah and I went out to dinner. We spent time with the girls. We laughed. I never mentioned what I knew. And I knew the silence was torturing her. She had no idea what I was thinking, and I could see the exhaustion creeping into her face, the uncertainty chipping away at her confidence. One night over dinner, I decided to have a little fun. So, Leah, I said casually, slicing into my steak, has your boss said anything about what happened at the fair? I had just read her messages confirming that she was still sneaking off to see Albert every day. She kept her face neutral. No. It's actually kind of funny. We both just acted like it never happened, And nothing did happen. So I guess there's no reason to dwell on it. We're both too busy with work anyway. I nearly laughed. She was so convincing. That night, I took out the last of my rage on her body. She gasped, breathless. My God, Daniel. What was that? I've never seen you like this before. You were so rough. I loved it. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling. What a joke. I already knew it was the last time. Soon, she would lose everything. The following afternoon, the sheriff entered the towering headquarters of GenCorp Innovations and walked straight to the executive floor. Without hesitation, he strode past the secretary's desk and knocked firmly on the heavy oak doors of James Bradford's office. Moments later, Sheriff Clark stepped inside and placed an envelope on Bradford's polished desk. Mr. Bradford, consider yourself served. With that, the sheriff turned on his heel and left, leaving James gripping the envelope with whitening knuckles. His entire body tensed as he ripped open the document and scanned the contents. His breath quickened. Divorce, civil lawsuits. His world was about to crumble. Slamming the paper down, he jabbed at his intercom. Get Albert Parks in here now. Meanwhile, in another office down the hall, Albert Parks was staring at the same kind of envelope, his hands trembling. He had been served too. When Albert entered Bradford's office, both men stood in stunned silence, flipping through the legal papers. Albert wiped sweat from his brow, his face ashen. What the hell is this? Albert hissed, his voice shaky, barely controlled. He turned his glare toward James. My wife cannot find out about this. If she does, my life is over. This is your fault. You swore this would never get out. James remained still, calculating. Unlike Albert, he wasn't the type to let panic cloud his judgment. Albert, on the other hand, had lost all composure. He slammed the papers onto James's desk. You fix this, Bradford, or so help me. I'll make sure you go down with me. James's eyes darkened. He wasn't a man to be threatened. He had clawed his way to the top of the corporate world, crushing anyone who dared to stand in his way. Albert's desperation was nothing more than an inconvenience. But James didn't have time to dwell on Albert's empty threats, because at that very moment, across the office floor, Leah was facing her own reckoning. Albert stormed out of Bradford's office and took the elevator down to the 12th floor, his pulse pounding. He needed to find Leah. As soon as he stepped out, he spotted the sheriff walking away from her office, his stomach twisted. He pushed the door open to find Leah slumped over her desk, face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking as she sobbed uncontrollably. Good, I thought. Her world was crumbling, just like she had shattered mine. Albert rushed to her side, dropping to his knees beside her chair. Leah, what the hell happened? How does he know about everything? She barely lifted her head, her voice coming out in broken gasps. What do you mean? Albert ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. I just got served with divorce papers. And that's not all. Bradford and I are facing civil lawsuits. We don't even know what evidence he has, but it has to be more than just those couple of photos. You saw. Leah's breath hitched. Her already pale face turned ghostly. My God, she whispered. Albert leaned in closer, lowering his voice. You need to make Daniel back off. If you don't, Bradford will destroy both of us. And my family. Leah nodded weakly, wiping at her tears. I'll go to him. I'll make him understand. I'll do whatever it takes to stop this. Albert let out a slow breath, shaking his head. Fix this, Leah. He stood and headed for the door. Call me tonight. Let me know how it goes. That night, when I walked into the house, I wasn't surprised to see Leah sitting in the living room waiting for me. I smirked. Leah, didn't expect you tonight. Thought you'd be spending time with Albert. I shrugged. Oh wait, he's married. That might be a bit awkward, huh? Her lips trembled, but she pushed forward. Daniel, please, let's talk. She reached for my hand, gently pulling me toward the couch. She had dressed carefully, more put together than usual. It was obvious, desperate. She was trying to remind me of the woman I had fallen in love with, hoping I'd see her as my wife again. I let her play her game. She took a deep breath, her voice soft, pleading. "Daniel, I got the papers today. But I need you to understand. I don't want a divorce. I need you. I love you." She swallowed hard. "I won't sign them." I arched an eyebrow. "Oh, you won't sign them." She shook her head quickly, eyes wide. "Albert means nothing to me," she continued, rushing through her words. "Yes, we were together, but it wasn't love. I don't know why I did it. I needed something, but it didn't mean anything. And I swear to you, I will never do it again." I let out a short laugh. "Oh, you swear? Well, that changes everything. Guess I'll just forget all of it, and we'll go back to playing happy family." She reached for my face, cupping my cheeks, pressing her lips to mine. "Thank you, baby," she whispered against my mouth. "I love you so much. I'm so glad you forgive me." I pulled away and shoved her back. "You're insane." My voice was like ice. "I will never trust you again, Leah." She flinched. "Daniel." I stared at her, unmoving. "I gave you so many chances. I waited for you to tell me the truth. And you kept lying. You kept destroying everything we built. Did you even stop to think about what this would do to the girls?" I let out a bitter chuckle. "No, you didn't, because you never thought I'd find out." Tears welled in her eyes. "But why are you going after Bradford and Albert?" I smirked, leaning closer. "Oh, you mean your lovers? Let's see. They're CEOs of a billion-dollar corporation. After I leave your sorry self, I'm going to need financial security for the girls." My voice turned cold. "And considering those two jerks helped ruin my life, I have every intention of ruining theirs." Leah's breath caught in her throat. I'm going to tear their families apart," I said, my tone eerily calm. "I'm going to hurt them financially. I'm going to break them, just like they used you." For the first time, true fear flickered in her eyes. She had lost control. She collapsed to her knees, gripping my legs, sobbing. "Daniel, please, don't do this. I love you." I looked down at her, feeling nothing but satisfaction. I lifted her up and set her on the couch, my voice calm, almost soothing. "Listen to me, Leah. You need to pack a bag and go stay with your mom for a few nights. Call a lawyer. We'll set up a time to talk." She sniffled, nodding weakly. I stood and walked to the door, pausing. "Oh, and one more thing." I glanced over my shoulder. "Stay away from Bradford and Albert. Things are about to get ugly." Late that night, from the dimly lit guest room of her mother's house, Leah reached for her phone. I had been expecting this. I had people watching her every move. Albert picked up on the first ring. "Hold on," he muttered, before adding another caller. "James, you there?" Bradford's voice came through the speaker, sharp and irritated. "Yeah." "Leah?" "I'm here," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. Bradford wasted no time. "Tell me you convinced him to back off." Leah hesitated before answering. "No, he kicked me out. He told me things were about to get ugly." A string of curses exploded from Bradford's end. "Damn it. Albert, what the hell have you done?" "Leah, you stupid." He caught himself, voice shaking with rage. "If my wife finds out about this, I swear I'll have you and Albert buried." Leah's breath hitched. I don't know what to do. He won't listen to me, won't answer my calls or messages." Bradford let out a slow exhale. Then we changed tactics. There was a pause before he continued, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. "Albert, set up a meeting with Daniel. Make it public. Somewhere busy. Leah, you'll be there too. You will beg him on your knees if you have to drop the lawsuit. And if he doesn't," Bradford's tone turned cold, "then we'll make sure he understands just how much he stands to lose." Silence hung heavy on the line. Then Bradford spoke again, his voice full of quiet authority. "Albert, you know what needs to happen, right?" Albert swallowed hard. "Yes, Mr. Bradford." "And Leah?" Leah's voice trembled. "Yes, Mr. Bradford, I understand." "Good. Tomorrow afternoon. Don't screw this up." The line went dead. I had been expecting all of this. The moment I heard about their desperate little phone call, I smiled. I had my own plans in motion. As anticipated, Albert called me the next morning, his tone carefully neutral. "Daniel, we need to talk. Let's discuss a settlement." "Name the time and place," I said, acting indifferent. "Meet me at the courtyard at 6 p.m. "Fine." By 4 p.m., I was already at my private investigator's office, preparing. We had top-tier recording equipment that could capture crystal-clear audio, even in the middle of a crowded environment. He would also be there in person, discreetly filming every second. At exactly 6 p.m., I walked in, deliberately late. Let them sweat. It gave my investigator extra time to set up. As I approached, my eyes locked onto Leah. I shook my head and smirked. "Leah, what a surprise. Here with your friends. I suppose it's good to know where your loyalties truly lie." I turned my gaze toward the men beside her. "Gentlemen, what can I do for you?" James Bradford stepped forward. "Daniel, I'm the one who called this meeting." I raised an eyebrow, pretending to examine him. "Bradford, I have to say, you look completely different in real life. The videos don't do you justice. And to be honest, I can't say it's a pleasure to finally meet you." Bradford ignored the jab. "That's exactly why we're here. You already know Albert." I turned to Albert, my expression tightening. "Oh, I know Albert. He's the one who slept with my wife and helped destroy my marriage. I'm not particularly happy to be standing here with either of you." Bradford nodded. "I don't blame you for being angry. If I were in your shoes, I don't know how I'd react either. But we need to come to an agreement." I crossed my arms. "Go on. We want you to drop the lawsuits against me, Albert, and the company," Bradford stated bluntly. I let out a short, dry laugh. "That's all. Just forget everything." "No, someone has to pay for tearing apart my family." My voice softened as I looked at Leah, the woman I once loved, the mother of my children. "You destroyed everything, Leah." Leah's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. And for the first time, I saw true regret flicker across her face. Maybe she finally understood what she had done. Bradford leaned in. "Daniel, let's be realistic. What will it take? Name your price." I smirked. There isn't enough money in the world to make me take her back. She made her choice. But I will consider dropping the lawsuits under 2 conditions. Bradford's jaw tightened. "I'm listening. First, I want $4 million in compensation. Second, I want a meeting with both of your wives. And Leah, you will admit everything." Bradford's entire demeanor changed. "Screw you, Daniel. I'll give you $100,000 and a signed contract ensuring you never speak about this to anyone." He leaned in, his voice deadly quiet. "You have no idea who you're messing with. If my wife finds out, I'll eliminate you. Leah already told us your daily routine. If you disappear, no one will know why. So let's try this again." I took a slow sip of my drink, letting his words settle. Then I smiled. "I'll lower my price to $3 million, but your families will know the truth." Bradford's expression darkened. "Daniel, you're digging your own grave. Drop the charges. Take Leah back. This was nothing but a fling. Let it go." I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my messages, and pressed send. 2 text messages, 1 email. In seconds, all the videos, images, and messages were sent directly to Leah's friends, family, and work colleagues. The texts. They were for the couriers I had stationed outside Bradford's and Albert's homes. The instructions were simple. Deliver the package. At that very moment, Mrs. Bradford and Mrs. Parks were receiving thick binders filled with every piece of evidence, Photos, texts, videos, call logs, everything. Bradford's phone buzzed, then Albert's. Both men went deathly pale. Bradford's fingers tightened around his phone as he glared at me. "What the freak did you just do?" I met his gaze and spoke calmly. "My response to you, Albert and Leah. Go to hell." Their phones rang. Both men stared at their screens, frozen. Their wives were calling. Albert's hand trembled as he hesitated to answer. Bradford, his face turning a deep shade of red, gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Leah turned to me, her voice barely a whisper. "What did you do?" I smirked. "Check your email in a few minutes. You'll figure it out soon enough." Bradford slammed his phone down so hard it nearly shattered. His face contorted with rage as he turned on me, stabbing a finger into my chest. "Daniel, you're finished," he growled. "You have no idea what you've just done." Without waiting for a response, he spun on his heel and stormed out of the bar, shoving a chair aside in his fury. Albert remained behind, staring at me with wide, hollow eyes. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Why? Why would you do this to me?" I let out a short laugh. "Why? You spent 6 months using my wife, the woman I loved, the mother of my daughters, as your personal toy. Then you pushed her into bed with Bradford so you two could have your twisted little games. And now you're shocked that I fought back." I leaned closer, my tone sharp as a blade. "Everything I sent your sweet wife was for her, so she could finally see the man she married for what he really is, so she'd know how many lives you've destroyed." Leah's phone began buzzing, one call after another, her sister, her brother, her aunt. I watched as she ignored them, fingers trembling while she opened her email. The moment she saw what I had sent, her jaw tightened. Her expression twisted into something between fury and horror. She turned to me, eyes blazing. "How could you do this to me?" I smirked. "You made it way too easy." Tears streaked down her face. "But baby, I love you." I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. "It's over. And once I hand over this recording to the police and social services, my lawyer is confident I'll get full custody of the girls." I met her gaze, my voice steady. "You'll be lucky if you don't end up behind bars." Leah sobbed, reaching for me. "Daniel, please." I held up a hand, stopping her cold. "Save it, kitten." The pet name dripped with sarcasm. "Wait, that's what you called him, wasn't it?" My smirk widened. "I know everything, princess, and now you get to live with the consequences." GenCorp Innovations settled the lawsuit quickly, wiring me a cool $2 million to make the problem disappear. James Bradford, however, didn't escape unscathed. The company's board suspended him indefinitely, and after a quiet internal investigation, fired him without severance for violating the morality clause in his contract. He lost over $10 million in stock options and forfeited a $5 million exit package. But that wasn't even the worst of it. Following a deeper probe into his business dealings, authorities charged him with conspiracy to commit homicide, thanks to the recorded threats he made against me. As more evidence surfaced, additional charges followed. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. His wife left him while he was locked up, taking everything in the divorce and leaving him with nothing. By the time he gets out, he'll be a ruined man. No wealth, no power, no family. Hearing that gave me a little peace. Albert Parks suffered just as much. His wife walked out the door the moment she received the evidence, stripping him of everything: his house, his assets, his reputation. The civil court found him liable for conspiracy, infidelity, and loss of affection in my marriage, slamming him with a $1 million fine. His once thriving career imploded, and without a steady income, he was reduced to picking up odd jobs just to survive. The last I heard, he was homeless, living under an overpass near a spot where day laborers gathered, waiting for scraps of work. That news made me smile. Leah didn't escape justice either. She was originally sentenced to 5 years behind bars, but with some influence, her punishment was reduced. 1 year of house arrest followed by 4 years of probation. She lost custody of our children. Because of the overwhelming evidence against her, she walked away from our marriage with nothing. The house was mine. She had no financial support. After losing her job, she had nowhere to go. And since we once earned equal salaries, there was no child support. She spiraled into depression. With no other options, she moved into her mother's basement. But even her own family had turned against her. Disgusted by the betrayal, she lost everything: her children, her career, her dignity. Then the true weight of her actions crushed her. I later found out she attempted self-destruction 3 times. She now spent her days heavily medicated, bouncing between psychiatric hospitals, unable to cope with the destruction she had caused. Meanwhile, my world revolved around my daughters. The $2 million from GenCorp meant I never had to work again, giving me the freedom to devote all my time to them. My mother and sister helped raise them, ensuring they had the love and stability they needed. They would be okay. This wouldn't define them. As for me, revenge was satisfying, but it wasn't healing. No amount of justice could undo the damage. A part of me still loved Leah, no matter how much she had hurt me. And while I forgave her, I would never forget. My daughters kept me busy, filling the void her betrayal had left. But trust, that would take years to rebuild. One act of betrayal can ripple through countless lives, leaving devastation in its wake. Be careful who you trust.